I say the system is no longer fit for purpose. You went before the Security Council, Madam Prosecutor. You accused them of empty promises. You accused them of inaction in the face of indiscriminate killings. And they didn't even blush. They simply thanked you for coming. That was the response that you got. Why go on with this farce?
I think it is still my responsibility. That should not discourage me. The court was set up, the office was set up to do just that, to investigate and prosecute. In this particular instance, when we got a referral, and after making our own analysis that we should investigate into this situation, we have continued and have been committed to this. From the very beginning, we have continued to work on this file. We have continued to attempt to give victims a voice.
I understand.
Continued, and that is what we have done.
But in Darfur, you have victims who have no voice.
If I may just complete, what we were supposed to do, I believe, in the situation in Darfur, we have done. We have been fully committed to it, and we've been doing it from the beginning.
What comfort is that to the victims?
We have
that you have followed procedures. What comfort is that to the victims?
We have requested, as you know, we've requested for several arrest warrants.
I know, but I'm looking at results, and you're looking at procedures. I'm looking at the result. It doesn't make any difference to these poor people who are suffering indiscriminate killings and abuses, whole range of abuses, that you have followed the procedures. That's no comfort to them. The results are a comfort, and the results, have you said, the system has let them down.
I think that when I referred to the UN Security Council this situation, when I spoke to the UN Security Council, it is to remind them that we have a collective responsibility, which we all must do. Not one side doing its part and the other not doing its side.
But you can remind them until the cows come home and nothing changes.
That is not
year after year you've reminded.
Of course, as time goes on, we'll have to reassess what positions and what actions we will take.
It's time now to reassess. How many more people have to suffer?
I think that by abandoning the case, if that is what you are implying, I don't think that is the result of what we should do. We should continue with the efforts to see how we can convince those who should support us, in this case the UN Security Council, to support the ICC. Because I keep reminding that our responsibility, our part of the bargain, in this case, have been done. And I said it has been, and I think it has been fully done, and that is to investigate the cases and to come out with arrest warrants. The execution of those warrants is not the responsibility of the ICC. You must remember that. We were set up not to execute warrants. I understand
that, but you're taking responsibility for just a tiny portion of this.
That is our duty.
I understand that.
That is the obligation we have.
Your court is defined not by its possibilities, but by its limitations. You have no police force. You have no enforcement mechanism. You have no support in the Security Council, it seems. Powerful forces against you there. 3 out of 5 of the permanent members, the most powerful members, are not even parties to the Rome Statute. And your warrants are dismissed around the world and not executed by people who have signed binding international agreements to execute them. They're not worth the paper they're written on, are they?
I believe this is incorrect, because we have issued several arrest warrants, and some of them have been executed. Some of them have been executed. But
some of the most important haven't. President al-Bashir of Sudan, for instance.
I do not think any one warrant is more important than another, because they are charged with atrocity crimes, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Their positions or their official capacity does not matter.
Let's look at President al-Bashir.
What matters is that those crimes have been committed. We've investigated. Just recently, serious crimes have been committed in Mali with respect to the destruction of property. And Niger and Mali work very closely to surrender that individual.
You don't want to talk about President al-Bashir of Sudan, because he travels freely around the world despite your warrant to have him arrested. The latest place he went was South Africa. You told the South Africans to arrest him. They refused to do so. This is a huge blow to your credibility, isn't it? Huge blow.
This I disagree. This is not a blow to the credibility of the ICC.
Again, they simply ignored your warrants.
Again, I must say that this treaty, this court is about duties and responsibilities among states parties and by the court, and by states parties themselves. Again, Our responsibility is to investigate the case, request for arrest warrants, and the judges have issued those warrants.
And we need to take your authority seriously, which they didn't do, did they? They didn't take your authority seriously.
South Africa has the responsibility, has the obligation under the statute, has the legal duty to arrest when there is a fugitive on its soil.
Which they have that responsibility. And you were deeply disappointed.
I am disappointed. I am
deeply disappointed. And with the Security Council that took no action either.
I am disappointed. And what we were supposed to do again, with respect to that, I believe the court has done. But what is positive in this, Tim, you have to remember, is that the South African judicial system itself took up the responsibility to oblige the authorities to arrest.
You're like the surgeon who comes to a patient. The patient dies, and you're saying, "But it was a great operation. It was a great operation. We did a great job, but the patient died."
I do not.
You didn't get the result you wanted.
I do not.
This was a failure for the ICC.
It is not a failure for the ICC because that responsibility.
Your warrant was ignored.
No, that responsibility is not ours. We did not ignore the warrant. It's South Africa that has an obligation.
They don't take your warrant seriously. This is a big problem to your credibility.
I think it is a simplistic way of looking at things. It is really not actually the fault of the ICC, because I tried to explain to you that the ICC was set up like that. We don't have these powers, and you have recognized it. We don't have the powers of arrest.
You had in Africa 34 countries, I think, that signed up to the Rome Statute.
Yes.
And now you have Africans, time and again, African leaders saying this court isn't for us. We had President Museveni of Uganda saying at the end of 2014, "I supported the court at first," he said, "but they've turned it into a vessel for oppressing Africa, so I'm done with that court." Kenyan Foreign Minister, "They're treating us like toddlers. Africa feels marginalized." On your watch, you as an African, you're losing Africa. You're losing Africa's participation in this court.
I don't think I am.
That's a central blow to the credibility of this court.
I do not think that the voices of a few leaders or a few people from Africa should be used to disregard the support that we still have in Africa. We do have support in Africa. As I told you, just recently, we were an individual was arrested by Africans and surrendered to the court. This is the situation in Mali. And before that, we have had other African countries arresting individuals and surrendering them to the court. The recent Article 70 cases in the Bemba situation, we have had about 4 people at least, arrested in different parts of Africa and in Europe, arrested and surrendered to the court. This is just last year. So if we just take those who are criticizing the court unjustifiably, I must say, because their criticism is not backed by the relevant facts and what is actually happening.
Well, the own president of the ICC, she says it's a problem for your credibility that you just focused on Africa. Whether that was by design or just the way it happened, but it's a problem for your credibility. She says that. You're president of your ICC.
I think it is correct to say that most of our cases, or all of our cases at the moment, are in Africa. But that is not the whole picture, Tim.
I know it's not the whole picture, but it's the picture that they are looking at.
Yeah, it's the picture they are looking at.
And this is why at an African Union summit, where they want to taking steps to set up their own human rights court and justice court, what was the first thing they did? They voted themselves immunity as leaders, immunity from prosecution, which goes against everything that the ICC stands for. You were set up to end impunity, and they are perpetuating it. And you say you still have Africa on board?
Yes.
They were unanimous. They they were unanimous in voting themselves immunity from prosecution.
Well,
every member of the AU.
That is definitely not from the advice of the ICC.
No.
Because in our statute, and this will continue to be, we don't advise them. We do not advise them. In this statute, there is no immunity, as you know, for head of state or whoever you may be, whatever your official capacity.
They've just voted it for themselves.
But that is for themselves, and it is for a court. I do not think that. Firstly, I want to say that.
You're proud of what they did?
Definitely, I'm not proud. I'm not proud of that, because I think the kinds of court that the ICC is, why it was set up, is to exactly deal with that.
So it was a slap in the face for them to do that. A slap in the face.
I don't know why what they're doing, setting up their court, should be a slap in the face for ICC.
Because it goes against everything that they've signed up with you and the Rome Statute.
That does not mean that the ICC, us, will not do our duties in accordance with the legal mandate. It doesn't mean.
It just means that they won't go along with it. That's all.
Well, as far as crimes,
and they've already proved they won't go along.
As far as crimes within the jurisdiction of the court are committed, and we have jurisdiction, there will be no immunity for whoever it may be. For whoever. This is clear, and this is what we will continue to do. This is our mandate. What others are doing, unfortunately, is not within my legal mandate or that of the court. So, but I also want to say something. Setting up a court to try these atrocity crimes is also not against ICC's principles. In fact, ICC is a court of last resort. We will be encouraged by national jurisdictions taking up their responsibility to investigate and prosecute these crimes, and also trying to set up other courts to deal with these crimes. This is why the ICC was set up, so that when these courts don't function, when we have jurisdiction, the ICC can step in as a court of last resort.
All right. Madam Prosecutor, you come from the Gambia. You come from a country with one of the worst human rights records in Africa. You served a dictator with one of the worst human rights records in Africa. In September last year, Human Rights Watch reported that the Gambian population lives in a climate of fear in which government justice and accountability for abuses is utterly beyond reach. Why are you silent about the human rights abuses in your own country?
Because it is not my duty or my responsibility, or does not fall within my mandate, particularly as prosecutor of the ICC, to pronounce or to advise, whether favorably or not, any government, including my government, on political issues.
And not to say where you see clear abuses of human rights?
I have not done it for any other country. I will also not do it for my...
You didn't mind wagging your finger at the Security Council and reminding them of their inaction.
The Security Council, we have a relationship in which they referred a situation to us.
You didn't mind speaking out over Burundi or Central African Republic?
Because when I speak out, and I want this to be very clear, anywhere that I speak out and make a declaratory statement, I am urging people not to commit crimes that fall within the jurisdiction of the ICC. This is my responsibility. I am not the Commissioner for Human Rights. I'm a prosecutor.
Yeah, and the Human Rights Watch reported that crimes in Gambia included, by state security forces and militias, arbitrary arrest and detention, torture, enforced disappearance, and unlawful killing. Something which might fall within your remit, reasonably be expected to fall within your remit. What would be so wrong in you warning them against doing that?
Because, as I said,
what's the worst that could happen to you, Madam
Prosecutor? As a prosecutor, it is not about myself. It is about my legal mandate.
But you have huge independence. You're a prosecutor.
Of course I do.
You can point the finger.
But
it's you who are deciding not to say anything about this.
I am not going to make pronouncement on political issues that are happening in countries.
This is not political. This is abuse. This is violations of human. This is killing and torture.
Is it crimes that fall within my jurisdiction? That is the question.
These are crimes.
But they have to fall within my jurisdiction. It should not be so difficult to understand that I'm a prosecutor. And under the Rome Statute, my crimes are war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity.
And you quoted as saying...
And those crimes even where they occur, must satisfy the gravity threshold to warrant the intervention of the ICC.
And you're famous for saying, Madam Prosecutor, I like to see that the victims know that they have a voice,
yes,
but not in the Gambia.
I think this is unfair to say. It is unfair to say because, as I told you, I go after crimes that fall within my jurisdiction. Not any crimes. Not all sorts of crimes. They have to be crimes that are within the jurisdiction of the ICC.
And murder and torture doesn't fall within your remit.
When we look at situations, when we decide to look into any situations where we feel that our crime